Yo, it's me, C-S-C-O-T-T, baby. And I'm here with my review of The Grudge, the 2020 Grudge. Starring Andrew Riseborough, Demi Bakir, John Cho, and it's directed by Nicholas Pesce. Alright, now you know me. I'm a fan of the Grudge films. I don't care for the third one that much. I think it's shit, to be honest, but it does continue. All three films continue a single story. Basically, the curse of the house, right? Like, the first film has to do with Karen and the family that used to live in the house, and then it continues in the second one with Karen's sister and these group of schoolgirls, and then the one schoolgirl goes to Chicago, and then the third one continues in that Chicago apartment building, and all one big story, total over 3 films. This one, the home video release says, is the Untold chapter, takes place concurrently, at least within the first 2 films. It goes between 2004, 2005, and 2006. So, at least the first 2 films. I'm not sure when the third film takes place, but at least the first 2 films. And it follows Detective Muldoon as she tries to solve a case concerning a house. And she is new to the town. So yeah, there's, like the first 2 films, it's told non-linear, which means it jumps around. But at least at first, it tells you what year it is when you jump around. And once you get the hang of it and you figure out, which characters fit in which year, it stops telling you because it figures you can figure it out on your own. And it follows 5 different characters at 5 different times. We got Muldoon, who's in her main timeline, with her son and her current partner. And then there's another timeline with her partner's other partner, where he was in the house and he started to lose his mind. We kind of delve into that a little bit. There's another story with the Larsons, which is where the movie kind of starts with, and it's the connection to the original franchise. And then we have, I can't remember their last names, but it's Lynn Shay and her African American husband, and what goes on there. And then we have John Cho and his family. So it's kind of jumps around, but the basic gist is that Mrs. Larson was taking care of the old woman from the original Grudge film, and she hands the job off to Yoko. That's the first scene. She's leaving that Japanese house. She calls Yoko. She says, "I can't do it anymore. I have to go home to my family." We get a brief scene with Kayako and the hand of Toshio, and that's all we get of those, because the Larson family are our ghosts, spirits, Juon, curse, grudge, for the film. And they actually say the Grudge in the film, which made me go, you don't call it that. I don't remember specifically what it said, but it's only said once. It's their grudge, or whatever they say. I think it's said by William Sadler's character. In Japan, they call it a Juon. Because, okay, to tell his story, he and his partner responded to something that happened in a house. The Larson family. And ever since then, he had the partner, because Demi Bakir's character, who's the main cop in this, next to Muldoon, of course, he didn't go in. Because he felt something with the house. And the way he talks about his mother and how after she passed, he still sees the house that he lives in as her house. And he kept everything in there. I think it was the spirit of his mother telling him not to go in the house. It never was directly spelled out, and he never goes in the house, which is good. But I think that's what it is. I think that he felt his mother's spirit say, "Don't go in the house." And so that's why he never did. He said he had a feeling, and he went with it. Good, but his partner, played by William Sadler, did. and he starts to lose his mind. And during one of the jumps, we see that Lin Shaye's African American husband, she's like a medium or someone who helps with suicide, I guess. She's see if I can find her name here. She's played by Jackie Weaver, and she sees the detective outside, and she screams and freaks out and tells the guy, "Hey, there's a man outside." So he knows who it is, and he calls, the detective, and he comes and gets him, and then he shoots himself in the face. But he's not dead, because Muldoon later goes to talk to him, and he basically tells her, you gotta burn the house. He tells her all about the Juon and everything, and even connects it back to Japan, and yeah, just, everything. Basically is the story. Because it's 2006, by then the first two films have probably happened for the most part. At least everything in Japan has happened. Or at least by this point, Ariel Kebbel's character made his way back to America in Chicago at this point. So now let's go to John Cho's character, because it jumps around. So that was the end of the detective's partner storyline. He says, he does, actually there is one more part. He cuts his own eyeballs out somehow, saying that he doesn't want to see them, but then he's like, I can still feel them watching me. Like, okay. So, the Larsons. We'll kind of go in order here. The Larsons, she comes home, and we later find out that she murdered her husband, drowned her daughter. And the daughter, she and the daughter are the main kind of ghosts, with the husband showing up here and there. Which, yeah, at first I was like, wait, the husband never haunted anyone. Only the sister in the second film, when she saw what happened and she becomes a Juon herself. But then I thought about it, and she kills her husband. So she's basically Mr. Sake in this film. And the husband is Kayako, and the daughter is Toshio. But we get all three of them haunting. And it's, when it's the wife and the daughter, it's a little freaky. But then you got this fat guy going around. It's like, can you just go over there, please? Like, there's a thing where Muldoon is, she's down, she's in evidence and stuff. And the door slams behind her, and that's the cage door. And then she hears another noise, that there's someone there. And she goes to the security room, and she rewinds the security tapes, and she sees the husband there, Mr. Larson, and Sam Larson. And I'm like, you're scared of a fat guy. His face is mutilated, sure, but he's a fat guy. What? There's also a case. They find a body in a car abandoned in a bush that was never found because no one uses this area anymore. So it's all totally like decomposed and mutilated and stuff because of the weather and everything. Kept it undercover, and they just found it. So yeah, it was like 3 months. So okay, I don't understand that, but yeah, and that's Jackie Weaver's character. And then we go back to, and we find out that she can do this for them, but she has to make sure that Lin Shaye's character has no mental problems. Good luck there. 'Cause she starts talking to a little girl that isn't there, but then the husband explains that there are ghosts, and he hopes when his wife passes, she will remain as one of the ghosts. And then the next day, Jackie Weaver wakes up, and she sees Lin Shaye in the kitchen, and something's happening. She's sitting there, she's chopping up stuff, chopping up something, and Jackie Weaver walks in, and she sees the husband dead laying on the floor. He's dead. She stabbed her, and then she's actually cutting off her fingers, and she's like, and then she drives away, and that happens. She crashes because of the ghost of the fat guy. Yeah. There is one problem I have with this. The husband is killed in the kitchen. He's laying dead on the floor, But when Muldoon finds him in the later timeline, which is earlier in the film actually, because we see her find the body first, and then we're shown how he is killed, how he dies and stuff. He's in a chair when Muldoon finds him. And I'm sorry, but he's a big, heavy African-American guy. He's dead. Lynn Shay done just chopped off fingers on one of her hands. There's no way she could pick her husband up and put him in the chair. So that's a little continuity error, even though this technically happened before they found the body. But the body is shown first. You see what I'm trying to say? It's a continuity error. It's like she finds him in the chair. When she goes in, she's talking to the wife. She's talking to Lynn Shay and she hears something. So she goes to look and she finds the husband's dead body in a chair. All rotted out, bugs crawling all over, in a chair. But the last time when we see all this go down, eventually later in the film, he's laying on the floor in the kitchen with a knife in his neck. So there's no way that a one-handed Lynn Shay could have dragged him over to the chair. A 70-year-old woman cannot drag an African-American man, a big-ass African-American man, like my size, fat, 260-some pounds, fat, for her to drag with one hand. There's no way. There's no way. Could you, if you were a 70-year-old little woman, could you drag this dead carcass from the kitchen into the chair? I don't think so. I don't think so. So that makes no sense. Okay? John Cho. Because it's basically, and she goes to a mental institution, and then eventually someone's not watching her, she dives off like they have those stairs that go up around and around. She jumps off one of those, kill herself. And, this rated R, so you gotta go gruesome. So she jumps, and it goes, and just blood everywhere. And we'll come back to that, because this is the alternate ending I'm going to talk about that makes no sense. We'll get to that. And that's probably why I didn't use it. But, so John Cho's character, like I said, they went to, they're at the hospital when they first show him. And he's a real estate agent, so is his wife. They're getting, there's an exam because they think that the baby might have ALD, A-L-D. And they say there's a good chance that they'll have it. And I guess it's a disease where you die early in life. I guess I'm no expert. That's what I hear. And so I don't know if I mentioned this. I mentioned it the first time I did it. So I was watching a Found Fix Ending explaining for this, and he was confused about why. I don't know if I mentioned this, so I'm going to just re-mention it again if I didn't mention it before. If I did, I'm sorry, I'm re-mentioning it, because when I had to restart this review. So he was confused as to why Miss Larson was all the way in Japan, and her parents and her family, her husband and daughter, were still in America. Well, John Cho's character they were selling the house. So I can assume they were going to move to Japan with her. That's what I can assume. But, yeah, and the house cheats, by the way. The house cheats. I don't know if I said this. Like I said, if I'm repeating myself, I am sorry. I don't write things down. I don't remember what I said in this review, and the one that got cut off, I'm sorry. But the house cheats. Because when they go to check on the Larsons, he pops his head in. Because he uses the thing, unlock, pops his head in. His feet do not go in. He does not walk in the house. He just sticks his head in and he yells for him, and you see the bathtub. But he does not step in. And it's after he just sticks his head in that the ghosts start to haunt him. And that's bullshit. Because he didn't actually go in the house. He just stuck his head in. That doesn't count. So they cheat. It's our own damn movie. And Sam Raimi, who was involved with the first three, should know that's not how it works. I'm just saying. So eventually he does go back to the house. and he sees a little girl. So he stays there the whole time waiting for the mom and dad to come home, which they don't. And after a while, I'd be like, okay, something's going on here. And then I think he sees the ghost of the mom, one of them. And then he comes home and he kills his wife. And he drowns himself in the bathtub. True to form, true to form. And, what was that? I think I got everyone, right? So now we're just on Muldoon. The Muldoon moved to this. And what they don't mention in the movie at all, but what I figured out because of the exterior shots, she lives in John Cho's house. They moved into John Cho's house. It's the same exterior shots when they go in and out of the house. It's the same house. And, you know, that's never mentioned. She even has the file. And she doesn't say anything. I can tell it's the same house. Maybe they didn't intend for it to be the same house, but it's the same house. Not the cursed house, mind you, but the same John Cho's house and her house, Muldoon's house, same house. And I like how they kind of handle her character, where her husband has just died from cancer 3 months earlier. She moves there to have a new start. Her partner smokes, and he's like, "You smoke?" "No, I quit. Mind if I do?" "Sure." And, you know, at least he asked. And then, true to form to this, because I've been around people who tried to quit smoking, and it doesn't always work. And as soon as things start to get tough, she starts up again. And I understand that. I get that. I'm sitting there waiting for that. I'm like, oh, there's stress. She's got to start smoking again. And eventually she does. I'm like, see? That's what happens with the stress. You know? At least she goes outside. But yeah. So eventually she does an investigation and everything. Eventually she decides she's going to burn down the house. But she brings her son with her. Because I was yelling at the TV because she's like, I've got to do something about this. And in the next scene, she's driving with her son in the back. And she's like, they pull up to the house. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You bringing your son with you? And that's only so that they can have a fake out. She's pouring gasoline, and it shows her what happened. How the people died, the Larsons died. And she's putting gasoline all over the house. She goes to light it, and her son's standing there. "Mommy, what are you doing?" And there's this thing throughout the film where she says, what happens when we're scared? We close our eyes, we count to 5. And I'm like, not in this movie, I wouldn't. But then there's another scene where the son says it. "Mommy, what are we doing when we're scared?" We close our eyes, we count to 5. She doesn't close her eyes, though. So in this scene, like, he's like, "Mommy, I'm scared." I'm like, "What are we doing when we're scared?" Doesn't say anything. She goes, "Honey, what do we do when we're scared?" Still nothing. She says it one more time, and she said, "We close our eyes, and we count to 5. And they count to 5, and then she throws the fire down. And then, yeah, of course, it's the ghost little girl. And the house burns down, and she leaves, and it seems like it's over. But of course, if you watch the first 3 films, if you watch the first film at least, you know that burning a house down doesn't stop the ghost. In fact, in the case of the first film into the second film, it made it worse. And then we get the scene where she tells her son, "The school bus is here, you got it ready to go." And then she sees her son in the hallway, and she gives him a hug. And then from behind, we see someone walk around, and it's her son. And he says, "Mom, I'm going to school now." And she's like, and it's the little girl. And she screams, and that's the end. Now, I think this is it's not necessarily a good ending, but it's better than what we had. Because I had to go in and out of the menu when I clicked the alternate ending, because it cuts back to a previous scene that's like halfway through the film. Or at least 3/4 through the film, where they go back, they show where she finds the Jackie Weaver's body once, and then they go back again later in the film, after they show the crash. And then we get David Bakir's character calling her after they find out that their prints on the body belong to the dead guy, Mr. Larson, Sam Larson. And so he calls her. She doesn't answer. And then the next day he shows up and she's hung herself. She's not dead, but she's taken to the mental hospital. And they tell her she's ready to go. Side by side, though, we see Lin Shaye's character as she's getting ready to jump. And she jumps just as they're leaving. And Muldoon turns around and just looks up at the little girl and stares. And that's it. That was the ending. The fuck kind of ending is that? If you ended there, there was still more stuff to tell, right? Like I swear there was a couple more flashbacks. She didn't learn how everything happened. That makes no sense. I'm glad they changed the ending. It's not a good ending, mind you, the actual ending we get, but it's better than that one. All in all, I didn't think this was like terrible, like everybody keeps saying. I mean, it's not good. It's okay. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I mean, people said, "Oh, it's not scary." There were times that I did jump. There were times that it did make me jump, especially when the little girl, which is weird. But it's just there's jump scare because there's one scene where she goes to see her son, and she's like, "Come to mommy." So the son walks into the dark area of the room, and then jumps out the little girl. That made me jump. I was like, "Whoa!" Even though I saw it coming, I'm like, "Yeah, it's the little girl. It's the little girl." Whoa, hey, it's a little girl. So made me jump. But yeah, it's just, it's not the best. I give it a 7 out of 10, like I said. What are your thoughts on The Grudge 2020? Leave in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. And see you in the next one.